The developed world has ended the death penalty. But in 2024, there are still 2 countries in the OECD that use it: the United States of America and Japan.
The only good take I've heard from Fox reporter or some shit, or what is it? What was his name? Carl or whatever. What's his name again?
Yo.
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker?
His only take, I agree with him, was the one about Kanye West. The rest,
alright, now look behind you. Look behind you. There's somebody there.
While the US has been
Somebody's
transparent
there.
about its ultimate punishment, Japan has kept its practices secret for years. It was only in 2010 that the world was finally shown the evil design of Japan's death penalty. July 26, 2022. Tomohiro Kato is sitting in his cell in the Tokyo Detention Center. 14 years ago, he killed 7 people and injured 10.
東京の警察によると、xQc案での自傷事件で少なくとも7人が死亡し、10人が負傷しました。警察によれば。
One pause. I don't want to come across as insensitive, or people will say racist or whatever, but something after watching a lot of footage and history of Japan, they seem from afar, from media, pop culture, whatever, or culture in general, to be more polite, reserved, chilled, disciplined. But you look at history, they do a lot of crazy shit. Motherfuckers they were kind of cooked up, low key.
Yeah, it's a warrior culture. That's why discipline is such a big thing. It's because of it's a warrior culture. I'm good, man.
In 2011, Tomohiro Kato was
How
sentenced to death. Every day he wakes up at 7 a.m. and heads to bed at 9 p.m. in a cell that's the size of about 4 tatami mats. He has a sink, a commode, bedding, and a small desk. In Japan, death row inmates can wait decades.
That's really good. That's a good room.
But
pretty
I don't mean
big.
to be rude, because I don't think you would call this torture. If you can put something on death row and something's really bad, right? I feel like you should have some accommodation that makes sense. Like, the bowl, maybe with like little like spikes or something, or like sandpaper, right? Having the water drop like 1 drop at a time, stuff like that. A bed that's like wobbly and shit like that. Like, what? I think that's just fair.
That makes sense.
You give somebody death. Well, I mean, brother, might as well make the last days not that fun.
unlike the US.
Yeah, because it doesn't really matter. He's gonna die anyway. He was kind of a dick.
Oh, guys,
Because he's had a death, right?
10.
You might as well just have a little fun.
6, 7, because,
right?
6, 7.
Just mess with him a little. It's not torture. It's just,
torture,
so here's a nice. It's just a little bit of tomfoolery. It's just a bit of tomfoolery. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
They're given no more than a few hours' notice. The Japanese state says that this helps with emotional stability, that it reduces the chances of an inmate taking life. Some argue it's justice. Their victims weren't given notice either. Others say it's inhumane. For 34 years, a man named Menda Sakai didn't know which day would be his last. In 1983, he was freed. The police officer who arrested him revealed that he had concealed Sakai's alibi that proved he was innocent. 12,410 mornings with an unjustified fear for execution. In 2014, Iwa Hakamada was also released and given a retrial due to possibly falsified evidence. He was the longest-serving death row inmate on the planet. Hakamada spent more than 45 years in prison, waiting. In the Tokyo Detention Center, Kato sits in his cell. He's surrounded by objects purposely made rounder, so that he can't finish off his sentence earlier than expected. On July 26, 2022, after 14 years of waiting, he hears more noises than usual outside of his door. Today, the majority of the developed world
is placed naked in the metal room with a rough-grit sandpaper conveyor belt floor. The floor is moving very slowly and never stops. The victim would have to walk constantly to avoid being scraped. The victim will tire and pass out, and the conveyor would pin him against the wall and start scraping his flesh. This will wake the victim up and keep him in agony until he bleeds out days later.
Wait, what?
World has outlawed the death penalty, but Japan is strange. This book explains why. Even though it's still legal in the US, it's debatable.
But it's funny.
The United States is a
That's
federal
kind of
divided country.
it's not really torture when they're already gonna die anyway.
Japan, on the other hand, is
And
a
you just
centralized state.
trolling them a
where
little,
polls have
just
shown
messing with
that
them a little.
supports
That is not really bad,
majority.
is it?
The US's
Right?
death penalty is intimately connected with its history of racial discrimination and enslavement. Japan is ethnic. Intimately connected with its history of racial discrimination.
But I'm pretty sure
Japan is ethnically homogenous and has less inequality.
there's just a lot of more black people in the south, right? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's the case, right?
Salazar and Franco
In America.
all led to the abolition of the death penalty in their respective countries. Japan's authoritarian state also fell, but the death penalty remained.
So, what's up with the borders that Japan is so homogeneous or whatever?
It's an island,
Oh, because in the water.
and they have very restricted borders. You just don't get in.
They float on water, right?
Yeah, but they have
Austria,
British in
Great Britain,
the
and France,
south.
the election of a left
They have a bunch of areas where black people are majorities, right?
Japan elected
Usually
the center-left
it's
Democratic Party of Japan.
20 to 40%.
But what makes
But
Japan's
there's
situation even
a
stranger
lot
is
of
how
areas over there where
illegal
it's
it
like
is.
70, 80%.
Its homicide rate is a fraction of that found in the US, and it's lower than all the European countries which have abolished the death penalty.
I think that's because they go hard on crime.
Nevertheless, the percentage of murder offenders sentenced to death in Japan and the US are around the same. In 2018, 15
But the US is
Japanese
just
prisoners
way more
were killed,
inmates, just
with about 160
way more.
inmates on death row. That's 10 less than the US in 2005, which had more than 10 times the amount of inmates on death row. 7 of the 15 executions were part of the AUM Shinriko doomsday cult. The Japanese state sometimes executes in batches. All 7 were killed on the same day.
From the Europe.
While the US explicitly treats the death penalty differently from other criminal sentencing, in Japan it's treated like other criminal punishments. To be put to death in the US, you must go through a bifurcated trial system. There is a criminal trial for determining guilt or innocence, which requires unanimity. After, if determined to be guilty, it goes to another trial for deciding the punishment. Here, you must receive, again, a unanimous agreement from the jury. Then, the judge can serve you the death penalty. Florida and Alabama are the only exceptions. But these two states are outliers in the US context, and they still require a supermajority. In Japan, it's different. Under the Saiban system, citizens act like judges. They sit alongside professional ones to determine both the verdict and the sentence of a crime. All that is required for the death penalty is a majority. In theory, 5 judges on the panel can believe the defendant is guilty and deserves the death penalty. While the other 4 can believe the defendant is innocent and deserves no punishment whatsoever.
What the fuck? Wait, that's insane. If you convinced a judge that knows the law and masters it, just one of them saying he would be innocent. Chat, because I see things like that. Guilty, innocent, right? It's super separated. For somebody to be seen as innocent and be seen by guilty by all judges sounds ridiculous.
However, with this close of a vote.
Because you would think that judges that all master the law would all agree very close to the same cloud of responses, right? At least somewhat very close as like, let's say on a scale of 10, you would have like a fucking like a 1, 1.2, 1.1, 0.8. It's all very close. But guilty, not guilty, that's insane.
No, it's very close. If the the lawyers do a good job, they make it close, right? If the lawyers do a good job, they make it close. Unless the guy is clearly guilty. But if there's a lot of missing evidence or something that is just unknown,
these are usually
it's very vague.
It
Can be very vague.
Moments where media coverage is limited. The executions are not made.
And also regular people are swayed by emotions a lot.
They only learn after it's taken place.
Banana brother.
Right? If some lawyer guy, Saul Goodman, talks to you and makes you feel like he's innocent,
Kato is brought into a prayer
the professionals probably are going to agree with that. They just
advisor.
don't see that, right?
He's given
But a lot of normal people, they will just be swayed by emotion in a way. And that makes it very close.
Into another small room with an altar. If they're Buddhist, it will be a
Because that's what a lawyer is trying to do. Even if he's guilty, a lawyer will try to make it
In
close.
this room, the execution order is officially read out by the prison warden. The last thing Kato sees are the blue curtains covering the next room. The guards wrap a bleached white blindfold around his eyes, throw a black hood over his head, handcuff his hands behind his back, and tie his knees together. He is taken to the next and final room.
Hanging.
In the US, lethal injection is the primary method of executing the death penalty. In Japan, hanging is the only method. At the center of the room are 2 red squares. An inmate is made to stand in the center. Beneath is a trap door connected to an adjacent room. When the inmate is in place, 3 officers enter this room. They do not see the prisoner. What they see instead are 3 identical buttons. 2 do nothing, but the third opens the trap door. The 3 officers do not know which one is the kill switch.
So nobody knows who did it.
This divides the responsibility between all 3. It's also been mentioned that there is a delayed circuit to hide who pressed the kill button if they were pressed at different times.
But that's pretty smart.
A good source to confirm this.
So it's not if all needed to be pressed, every single one would be responsible. If you knew who was going to press it, only one guy is responsible. But this way, it's the responsibility of one guy, but it's divided over 3 people. So the people are less responsible in a way, right? So it makes them feel not so guilty about killing a person.
For their service, all 3
I
officers
think that's a
received
good thing.
20,000 yen, about $180 each. Watching the execution are a few officials: the head of the detention center, a medical officer, and the prosecutors.
We want to make sure the job is done
The
properly.
medical officer waits for 5 minutes until confirming the death. After the body is cleaned, the families are notified.
Chat.
The body will be cremated.
What if some guy has like some weird fucking like tumor or like something in the back, whatever, or like very strong muscles or something like that, right? And it jams. It jams.
Your throat is in the
family
front, man.
specifies otherwise. In the case of some high-profile inmates, the ashes are kept in state custody. It was only in 2007 that the Japanese government even released the names of those put to death. Currently, there are 106 inmates awaiting their execution.
It's not
in
certain death,
Japan.
exactly, that's why I said it.
The last person sentenced to death row killed 36 people in an arson attack. Tomohiro Kato was the last person executed in the country. I only felt comfortable putting this video in production after it was confirmed that a very specific organization would sponsor it. If topics like this one
36?
make you feel eager for positive change in the world, you should check out 80,000 Hours. It's an independent non-profit that understands
Alright,
that your
sandpaper
time
floor
is
for
limited,
that guy.
and it wants to help you find a career with more positive impact.
I enjoyed this video, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay, here it comes.
Hook.
Yo, this is X on the beat, yo. Okay. My voice as well.